Sequest, Book 2, Silda, the Electric Eel, by Adam Blade. Read for you by Brandon Rees-Taylor on the Jesse Millette YouTube channel. Chapter 1, Rules of the Sea. Leah shot ahead on her pet swordfish, Spike trailing Bubbles after her. The swordfish did a 360-degree spin, showing off. Max gunned his aquabike's engines with a turn on his wrist and roared after her. "Keep up, Riv," he called back. His dogbot was nosing through a shoal of fish. He wagged his metal tail at Max's voice. "Crab, Max, crab," he barked. "Not now," Max said. Rivet lifted his head, and his leg propellers whirled as he zoomed towards them. Rivet wasn't the very latest technology when it came to fishing droids, but Max's modifications have made him one of the fastest. Leah dipped Spike's nose, and the swordfish cut through the water towards the seabed, darting around barnacle-covered boulders. "Anything you can do," Max thought, leaning with his body to follow her. He'd always dreamed of owning an aquabike, and this was a Lightning X4, one of the best, he thought. Spike thumped his tail into the seabed, throwing up a cloud of sand. As Max pulled back on the bike's handlebars to climb above it, he gently squeezed the brakes and looked over his shoulder for one last glimpse of Samara. "Yep, I'm definitely not dreaming," he thought. "That place is real." The great coral columns of the Merin city rose through this water, shaped into towers and buildings. Stone walkways stretched between them, and colourful flags of seaweed fluttered in the currents. Glowing plants lit up the underwater streets like torches. Max shook his head in wonder. He couldn't think of anything less like the metal skyscrapers he used to live in. Until yesterday, the island of Akiwara had been his home. So much had changed in a single day. Max had spent his whole life above the water. His dad hated the sea, feared it even, ever since his wife, Max's mum, had vanished with her brother while exploring. Dad told him that before Max's mum set out, people had made fun of her. They said she was stupid for looking for the Merin, legendary underwater people. But she'd been right all along. Max had found that out himself. Still, Max would rather she had been wrong, if it meant he could have her back. His mum's sub, the leaping dolphin, had never been found after it had gone missing. Max had no idea what had happened to his mother or brother. "I won't lose my dad as well," he thought. He felt a squirm in his stomach. His father, Callum North, head defence engineer at Akiwara, had been kidnapped by an evil scientist known to the Merin people only as the Professor. He could control the great creatures of the sea with advanced technology. Max wasn't going to stop searching the oceans until he'd found his dad again. Professor was no friend to the Merin either. He had stolen their most treasured possession, the skull of Thalos, which gave them the power to control the sea. So far, Max and Leah had recovered one part of the skull, but there were 3 other sections to rescue. Without the skull, the Merin aqua powers had been weakened. They couldn't do battle with the Professor's robo-beasts themselves, so Max had agreed to help them. He set his jaw as he stared back at the beautiful city. "They need me," he thought, "and I won't return until the skull of Thalos is complete." Max lifted his hand to the scars in his neck. The new gills still felt strange, but breathing through them was as natural as, well, breathing. His skin, which should have wrinkled like he'd spent too long in the bath, was smooth as silk. Rivet arrived at his side, red eyes flashing. "Race, Max." "Oh, you think you can beat me, do you?" Max replied. Rivet barked, and his tail wagged faster. Then he streaked off towards a clump of tall, swaying weeds. Max tipped the handlebars and shot after him. A host of crabs scuttled out of his way as he wove between the tendrils of seaweed. Ahead of him, a squid pulsed out of sight, turning an angry orange colour. Max was gaining on Rivet and twisted the throttle to full speed. "Almost got you," he muttered. A shape swept in front of him, causing him to brake hard. He somersaulted over the handlebars. Would jagged rocks tear the flesh from his back? Thankfully, he bounced over soft sand, dizzy and confused. He turned and saw Leah sitting on top of Spike, her hands on her hips. "What in all the seventh seas do you think you're doing?" she snapped. Even underwater, Max felt a blush rise to his cheeks. "I was just menacing innocent creatures," Leah said. "Sorry," said Max sheepishly. "It's all so new to me." Leah's face softened. "This isn't a breather playground," she said. "We need some ground rules." "Don't you mean water rules?" Max said. Leah didn't smile at the joke. "Number 1, respect the ocean. Don't cause damage and don't harm the creatures that live here. Number 2, the ocean might be beautiful, but it holds many dangers, so be careful around every plant and creature, however innocent they look. And number 3, never, ever go into the undertow." "What's the undertow?" asked Max. He'd just seen Rivet digging in the seabed with his nose. "No bones in there, boy," he thought. "You breathers don't know much, do you?" said Leah. "An undertow is an extremely fast current flowing near the seabed. It's almost invisible, but if you get caught in one, it can be deadly. Are you listening?" Max's attention snapped back. "What's that? Oh, yes. 1, respect. 2, dangers. 3, what was 3? "Undertow," Lisa said. "Got it," Max muttered. Rivet was pulling a sparkling pearly shell out of the sand. "Now I'm hungry," said Leah, taking off her knitted knapsack and feeling inside. She pulled out a disc-shaped green object, broke it in two, and offered half to Max. "What is it?" he said. "Seaweed cake," she replied, taking a bite. "Delicious!" Max brought the cake to his lips and took a nibble. It tasted like salty cardboard. "Mmm," he said, but his voice gave him away. Leah laughed. "You'll get used to it." She fed a piece of the cake to Spike. "Now, which way are we supposed to be going?" Max called to Rivet. "Here, boy." His dogbot dropped the shell and swam over. Max opened the storage compartment in his back and took out the long white jawbone of the skull of Thalos. The surface glowed almost translucent. Max let go of the jawbone, allowing it to float in the water. It slowly rotated as if guided by invisible currents until it pointed off to the left. "It worked," he said. "We'll find the next piece, no problem." He reached out to take the jawbone when, whoosh, a large silver fish swooped in from nowhere and snatched the white shard. It darted away before Max even had time to gasp. The jawbone of Thalos had been stolen.